studios within every constituency, in line with the ICT hubs that we have developed. Then within these studios, we can equip them. Equip those studios with good facilities, and also encourage the local talent in whatever field they are, whether there is a talent in music, whether it's a talent in any form of production, because you find that we have Kenyan youths who would want to even engage in film production. There are those who have talents in singing. There are those who have talents in even developing various things. There are others who want to develop a vehicle. There are others who have talent in developing software. There are others who have talent in even various fields, whether agricultural, even in climate mitigation measures. So I think putting 2% of whatever is of our allocations in CDF for talent development, to me it is even too little to ask for. And I think but it is a good start for us, so that we can be able to start from somewhere, put that 2%, but in line with that, putting that 2%, where we have put up our ICT hubs. For example, in Endebess, I have an ICT hub with more than 40 computers, about 47 computers, where my youths from all the constituency, they are able to come there. They are able to be taught through the Ministry of ICT, where they're able to engage in getting jobs and everything. But I think it is even better if we can develop a studio for them, where those who want to develop, who are musicians, they can come and record their music. Even church choirs can come and record their music and be able to develop and market and sell. So I think 2%, Honorable Kiaria, might be too little, but it's a good start. And therefore, I want to support you on that line and think that all the other members will be able to support. And this motion, it says it resolves, Parliament resolves. So once it is resolved, then I think this resolution should be able to be implemented by the NCCDF committee through maybe some bit of amendments in our regulations, so that this can be made to be workable. With those few remarks, I want to support.
I would like to strongly support the motion brought by the brilliant young member of parliament from Dagoretti South and an artist himself. And I think this is a very timely and important motion, given the fact that, in fact, as a country, we do have an advantage that we could turn to the benefit of our young people. We have one of the youngest young populations in the world. And by investing in that young population, we could turn what could be a crisis into a boom. In other words, we can make young people productive and contributors to the economy. And I think innovators, creators, and talent people are out there. And technology and culture and arts could be an entry point for us as a country to be able to lift our economies and create an opportunity for this country to become a developed country. I was just looking at the benefit of how much the countries like the United States benefit from production of art and cultural goods and services. And in the United States, arts and culture add 4.3% directly to the nation's GDP, to a total of $1 trillion a year. This is an amount much bigger than anything that is offered by the American industry, construction industry, the mining industry, everywhere. The arts and culture sector contribute more to the economy and the GDP of the United States than anything else. And us, given the fact that we have an abundant number of innovators, creators, and talented people, we can leapfrog into the fourth industrial revolution by investing in our youth, by putting money to promote that. And I speak also as a member of parliament who has the largest art and culture center in Nairobi, the Nairobi Craft Center in Shauri Moyo, Majengo, is a one big production center that is not very productive in the sense that it does not get the investment that it requires. So I fully support that we should support our innovators, our artisans, and we should be able to benefit from that into the digital age. And I think 2% is not enough, but it's a good beginning. So, Madam Speaker, I think this is a very good motion that we should support, and I think this is an area where the government should invest so that we can turn our young people into productive forces to contribute to the economy rather than becoming criminals and people who are undermining our economy. And I think one of the biggest challenges we face in this country is unemployment. If we can fix the problem of unemployment, then we can fix many of our economic problems. And Honorable KJ's idea and motion would make a major contribution to denting that unemployment problem that we have in the country and in our capital city. Therefore, I support it fully, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Rundikiri, member for Buhuri constituency.
I thank you, Madam Speaker. First, I want to thank my colleague, Honorable KJ, for bringing this motion. Madam Speaker, the term artisan refers to a worker who practices trade or aircraft, handicrafts. They are called craftsmen. They are skilled. They are semi-skilled. Madam Speaker, we have so many young people in this country. Some of them have never been given an opportunity to exploit their talents, either in singing, in making items, in trading in items. They have not been identified and funded and supported accordingly. So this motion comes in handy because through this motion, we will have one milestone of looking for funding for these interested young people. Madam Speaker, we all come from constituencies with so many young people. Many of them, they are dancers, is part of artisan. Many of them want to make things with their own hands. Many of them want to trade in items that are found in their locality. Madam Speaker, I support the 2% increment allocation by the CDF, but that's not enough. How I wish that we can list this up to 5% because it will cover a wide area of our youth. Madam Speaker, in my constituency, border constituency, there are so many items, there are so many products that if these people are given an opportunity, they will be able to use them and make income from. Madam Speaker, it is a shameful thing for us in Kenya to be allocating 2% only. to the largest population of this country. How I wish the mover of the motion could have said an allocation of at least 10%, borrowed from National CDF, borrowed from Human Enterprise Fund, borrowed from the Youth Enterprise Fund, so that we have a bigger picture, because we are dealing with a very high population. Madam Speaker, these people, if they are funded well, they will not only have an opportunity for innovation, but also they will create employment for others. Madam Speaker, they will create infrastructural development in terms of centers where they will be operating from. They will create entertainment. They will get majority of the young people who are into drugs and alcoholism to become active in the society. Madam Speaker, this motion has come the right time when the ASLA fund is being instituted by the government. How I wish that ASLA fund will target these kind of people, our young people. And therefore I ask the mover of the motion to consider lobbying for more allocation of the ASLA fund. And I hope KJ is listening. I hope a greater amount of ASLA fund is allocated to our artisans. Madam Speaker, if that is done, we will prevent a lot of bad things happening in this country among our youth. I am very sure, Madam Speaker, this motion will pass, will be approved by the members, and once it is approved, we will now have the responsibility of implementing this, the motion. So, Madam Speaker, this is a great thing for us to note. And I want to remind this House that the great China, majority of the companies that have become multinational companies today, they were all started as artisans. Very small companies, they have grown up to towers making, they have grown up to making big things. So, Madam Speaker, I support. And I know this will create a serious base for the economy of this country if we support these ASLAs, because majority of them, they are actually ASLAs. I beg to support. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Timothy Wanyonyi, member for Westlands constituency.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me also a chance to add on my voice on this motion. First, I want to congratulate my friend, my neighbor, Honorable Kiare, for bringing this motion. Madam Speaker, way back before devolution took a center stage, there were these vocational colleges that were being funded by the CDF. And then when it was devolved, they went to the county government. They were devolved to county government. And these are some of the centers that we were using through the CDF, Madam Speaker, to support our young people who are ready to go and learn some skill which they can use, Madam Speaker, to develop many other things. And we know most of these colleges, Madam Speaker, when the CDF was removed, they stalled. And now even the enrollment has completely gone down. And I had even asked the CDF board if they can allow the CDF to continue funding these colleges so that we can now bring in our young people. Today, Madam Speaker, if you go around looking for a plumber, it's very difficult to find one. If you are looking for an electrician, it's very difficult. Now we have these motorcycles, those who are technicians who are supposed to repair, they're supposed to be trained on this level. And most of the successive government after Moi that came into power, they completely destroyed the middle level colleges and upgrading them to universities. And this is what has also created a vacuum that our young people, those who are left school, those who drop out of school even at standard 8, these are the colleges that are supposed to, Madam Speaker, go to and learn something that can help them in develop their skill. If you read the story of Steve Jobs, this is a man who really created this Apple, the mobile phones, the iPhones and all that, the Apple products. He designed this thing in his own room, and in a small a room. Now this same gadgets, Madam Speaker, are the world leading products from the US, and I'm very sure, as the past speaker said about the M-Pesa, the person who created an M-Pesa was just a Kenyan youth who then sold it to Safaricom, the idea. And it was bought, and now you can see it become like a revolution in the whole world. So investing in innovation, it will bring out the creativity of our young people. And I know countries that have developed the Korea, the Asian tigers, China, and many others, Madam Speaker. When you look at what they have done, they have invested heavily in innovation, and they have invested in skills development. And even the new program that the government has started, the CPC, I think that's an area that also needs to be supported, because as we refine it, it's an area that we are going to use, Madam Speaker, to develop talent. And sometimes we, in the US, when they discover talent in somebody, they isolate that person and nurture it. So today, even our young people, if you just give them a mobile phone or a laptop, you can see the kind of things they can come up with. They can create a lot of things. They can design. They can do all manner of things with just a laptop or a phone. So, Madam Speaker, I support that we invest in these empowering artisans, and through the CDF or even these other funds, the government funds, the WESO Fund, the Youth Enterprise Fund, and others, Madam Speaker, they can be used to support these artisans. I know some of them are self-made, but you can see even the person who has not even had a formal education, when you see the kind of work they can do, Madam Speaker, it's amazing that we
Thank you. The Honorable Ferdinand Wanyonyi, member for Kwanza.
Madam Speaker, thank you for the chance, and I want to take this opportunity also to thank Honorable Keria for coming up with this motion. My take, Madam Speaker, will be that once this goes through, my thought is that once it goes through, Mheshimiwa, we want you then, of course, consequently, to be able to have it made into a bill and create a department. Because if you just ask, that we're going to have this, the bill maybe pass through and we fund it through the CDF or WESO funds, it may be messy and may be very good directive. I want to ask this House that this bill is very good, because Kenyans are very creative. If you didn't know, recently I made a trip with him to Korea, and we were asked to carry a Maasai sheet. We're supposed to go with Maasai because they have seen it, and it's very admirable elsewhere, a creation from this country. Go to Bomas of Kenya, see how the youth dance and sing. Again, we have the best singers in the country. Compare even with the DRC Congo. So we have talent here, and it's wasted. So I think, Madam Speaker, in where I'm sitting and where I stand, that I think once this is gone through, and as you can see, it's very supportive, the House is very supportive on this motion, I would suggest that we do one thing, make it into a department, and that department can be housed either in the ministry of Youth or Ministry of Industry or whatever it is, again, depending on the wisdom of this House, so that actually the youths are actually not disadvantaged. It's not only the youth. There are many other people over even 38 years and above, very creative out there. So that's the only way we can be able to have this particular motion. And I hope my colleague Kiaria is listening, and therefore we'll pick it up and let's work together, and so that we don't just talk and talk and talk. So many things has just been mentioned. Those of you who didn't know, Safaricom was actually created by our own youths sometimes back. Now it's taken all over. We have sold it to Ethiopia and everywhere else. I went to the Middle East and Safaricom is there. Creation of our own youth. And therefore, I think that's what they should do, and I think that's the way out to be able to go ahead of these people who come and take some of the talents and sell them elsewhere. I think, Madam Speaker, I want to also to mention that apart from creating that, we also want to make sure that from now onwards, and once that is done, and it's actually anchored in the Constitution, whatever it is, or through the Parliament here, that nothing can be copied out there without paying for it. Because anything that you see out there is paid for. Anything that comes out that is new to the world is paid for, because the talent is whatever it is. Because I've got young youth in my area, for example, running all over the place, and whatever they do, create, my friend, you'll be very missed. So with those few remarks, I want to support the motion, and hopefully we'll make it into a bill and pass it on. And the best thing is to be able to anchor it into have a department, create a department that can be able to look after this particular talent, so they can be able to have this talent and the skills that are protected from the malicious people out there. With those few remarks, I support.
The Honorable Rachel Nyamai, member for Kitui South.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for this opportunity to support this motion by the Honorable Kiarie. First of all, I would like to congratulate him and to thank him for taking up what he did when he was in school many years ago. Honorable Speaker, the Honorable KJ is one of the examples of young people who started being an artist very early, and you can see that he's still doing very well even as a member of Parliament. Honorable Speaker, this motion focuses on getting 2% and ring-fencing it from the CDF allocation to ensure that this money goes to support our local artisans. Madam Speaker, I would like to encourage the Honorable Kiarie, as he says that he's going to focus on youth, women, and people with disability. It is true that these are the most talented people that we have in our constituencies, in the 290 constituencies in this country. Honorable Speaker, as we do this, we can push our agenda on the women, because most women are highly committed, and also the youth, because of the way they are quite innovative. We have seen examples of countries where young people started small projects as local artisans, and these projects have translated to huge companies that have brought revenue to their countries. Honorable Speaker, I would like to encourage the Honorable Kiarie to also be a good example to these young people. We have seen many projects and programs where young people are called, they are trained for very good talk shows, but they don't get to close deals for business. So I would like to encourage him to be one of those, among other members of Parliament who are talented, that we can volunteer our time to ensure that our young people are not only being trained, but they are given the skills to cut deals, so that they don't only come up with very beautiful projects and programs, very beautiful products, but it does not translate to money, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I would also like to focus on double training, whereby when these young people are being trained, they can be exposed to international programs, where they can see the success of the others so that they can learn from them. As they do that, they'll be promoting their YouTube channels for those who have already learned, and also they can start their own startups that can also be pushed to huge returns. Honorable Speaker, as we train these people, these artisans, we can encourage them to invest in their local communities. We have seen examples of groups that start as small groups, and then they grow to become circles, and the circles start buying, for example, land. I've seen a small group that started buying land, and they become very big investments in the communities. So, Madam Speaker, as we focus on artisanship, we can also push towards going to purchasing of property within communities and encouraging many more other people to apply. Madam Speaker, most of these artisans will be people who are doing sculpture. Others are doing very good carvings, like in my community. We have seen the Kisi community who are very good in molding the soft stone. We have seen a wonderfully woven fabric being handled by our Luo. Honorable Speaker, I know that we are encouraged not to mention people by their tribes, but I'm just trying to use the example so that we can relate the talent to the owners. For example, the Luo, who are very good in making fabric. Madam Speaker, our Maasai sisters and brothers who are making breathtaking decor using beads for the neck and for the hands and for feet. Madam Speaker, I would like to encourage the Honorable Carrier that this is a very good motion that you have brought, and it needs to be supported and given the 2% and ring-fenced so that we ensure that it is not taken by other projects like tree planting, which is equally good, but artisanship is extremely good. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Owen Bayer, member for Kilifi North Constituency.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. First, to congratulate my brother and friend, the Honorable KJ, for introducing this motion. Secondly, to say that a lot of the artisans, those people that have good talents, those people who do wonderful work, every time they meet a member of parliament, they will tell them, I don't have capital. I want to record this song, but I don't have money to go to the studio. I want to shoot this video, but I do not have money to go to the studio, to hire a video camera to go and shoot. So what is the problem with our talents? It has not been supported financially, and that is where the problem is. And I want to congratulate the Honorable KJ because he has put it on the right. We want to give them 2% of CDF and other funds, and that is where we get a solution to the problem. A lot of the talents that we have, Madam Speaker, I have many people who do very beautiful gates. They design very beautiful gates. And they have the skills. They've been trained. They have even the market. But they will tell you, I need 20,000, only 20,000 shillings to fabricate this gate and sell it and make 60,000, make a profit of 40,000. And with 40,000, I can make another 4 gates. But they lack that 20,000 to start them off. Honorable Kiari, you've put the nail on the head. We need to give them money to do the job that they can do very well. And where do we get the money? CDF has many components. One of them is environment and many other components. Putting in 2% to support that talent is very important because if you read the CDF Act, they say you cannot confer a direct benefit to an individual. That therefore locks out giving the money to individuals. But then I ask myself, but when I give bursary, what am I doing? I'm conferring a direct benefit to an individual. But then when someone comes and says, you know, I can make very beautiful dresses, I want you to buy for me a sewing machine, I will tell them, you know, the CDF Act does not allow me to do that. We need to go to the CDF Act and change it. And this motion should be the precursor for us to be able to go to the CDF regulation and change them and put the 2% to support the artisans, to support people with talent, and to support our young people who are rearing and yearning to make a difference in their own lives without having to follow around an MP or a politician to make money. And that is the only way we can help this country. When you talk about the Hustler Fund, during the campaigns, You saw so many young people moving around with MPs, with politicians. What are they looking at? At the end of the day, they want 1,000 bob, 2,000 shillings. But then, if we have empowered these people through the CDF kitties that we have, through Uwezo Fund, through all these other institutions that have funds, I can tell you, there will be more people producing for this country, and we will grow the GDP of this country. If you look at other countries, if you have an idea, you can walk into a bank, sell your idea, and a bank or a financial institution will give you the money to promote that idea. In this country, an idea is not collateral. An idea is not something that can give you funds. But this motion by KJ tells us that a good idea is bankable and can get funding, and that idea can be progressed to something that is commercial, and when it is commercialized, then people make money, and they put money in their pocket, and they put food on their pocket, and educate their children. That is the way to go, to support the millions of young people in this country who are only looking for one: capital. They are looking for capital. They have the market. You have many young people who do very nice skits, who do very nice. I follow one person, it's called Victor Naman. I don't know whether you, yes, Ujinga Victor Naman. I follow him on, a very interesting guy, extremely talented. If you had a problem during the day and you want to sleep well, please watch Victor Naman. It'll make you laugh and sleep very well at night, because he provides you with comic relief. But Victor Naman would do better if we gave him capital from our CDF and those like him to promote their talent and make big money. They cannot call a big show like Churchill will do. But if we had some capital, they would also promote their talents across the way Churchill did and made money. They would also make as good money as Churchill and Eric Omondi, if we gave them the money to do that. So I want to ask you, members of this parliament, as we pass this motion and as we go forward, we need to go to the regulations of CDF and tinker them and change them and put money, 2%, 5%, just to support the millions of young people who require funding for their talent and for their artisanship. This country's GDP will go up, we'll have less insecurity, and we will develop talent in this country. Actually, the highest earners in this country are artists. In this world are artists. The billionaires in the US are artists. We can create our own here by supporting them, by giving them the capital to do what they can do best, and we grow our GDP, and the hustlers will rise, and this country will become what we want it to become. I thank you, Madam Speaker, and I thank you, the Honorable KJ. Asante, thank you very much.
The Honorable Irene Mayaka, nominated member representing the youth.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I also stand to support this motion by the Honorable John Kiari. Honorable Speaker, we live in a country that for the longest time has overglorified the blue-collar jobs. Everybody out there, the young people, believe that for you to be able to make it in this country, then you must have a blue-collar job. And this is the very wrong perspective that we have out here. But the reason for this, again, Honorable Speaker, is because of lack of such motions that actually intentionally promote artisans and people who have their own natural talents to be able to prosper in this country. But then again, Honorable Speaker, even as we seek to have this motion put in place, we must also ensure, and I know Honorable John Kiari would be very instrumental in ensuring that we have an administrative process that enables us to have this particular motion put in place in the right way. Honorable Speaker, the first thing that we need to ensure that we have is that within our different constituency, even before the CDF funds is ring-fenced to ensure that it supports these young people, do we even have a database? Do we know how many different skilled people that we do have in our different constituencies? Because that should be the first step. Honorable Speaker, I think in literally every constituency in this country, we do have access to TVETs. But then these TVETs have not been properly utilized. So that is also another step, that these people who are artisans in their various skill sets have the advantage of getting trained. Honorable Speaker, the other thing that we need to do is establish a Buy Kenya, Build Kenya strategy, where we actually have exhibitions in place that enable artisans for different types of skill sets to be able to showcase what they do have. And Honorable Speaker, let's not also forget the fact that we are a country that is very innovative in nature. We are a country that has majority of our people on social media platforms, and we need to actually take advantage of these platforms for us to be able to penetrate the rest of the country to showcase some of the talents we have. Honorable Speaker, where I come from in the Gusii area, Nyamira and Kisii County, we have some of the best artists, rappers and musicians in this country. But then again, most of these people have not been able to discover that they can actually make a lot of money through the online process. Honorable Speaker, if I can just use an example of one artist called Diamond, who uses the YouTube channel to actually showcase his music. He puts in a new song, and within 1 hour, he has so many people actually viewing this, and he ends up making money through this channel. Honorable Speaker, so my encouragement is that even as we seek to ensure that we actually pass this and have the funds, as suggested by the Honorable Member, of 2% being allocated for this, we must also be ready to be very open-minded and also consider the fact that we cannot only promote our artists through the homegrown resources, but that we can also use the online facilities that we have. Honorable Speaker, in fact, in my view, I think 2% is actually on the low side. We should actually have a higher percentage for this, because as I said when I began, it's that we do not have any more blue-collar jobs in this country. We are trying to encourage our young people to actually be employers, to be CEOs, so that they can also employ other people and use this mechanism of being artisans to be able to grow our economy. And Honorable Speaker, as I finish, one honorable member did mention about the Gusii artisans who use soapstone. And this is one thing that is actually, unfortunately, dying in our spaces because it has not been significantly promoted. And therefore, as I take my seat, I'd just like to once again congratulate the Honorable John Kiare for bringing this motion, and I urge all of us to support it because this is the right way to go. Let us encourage ourselves and ensure that we buy Kenya and build Kenya. I thank you.
The Honorable Mishi Mboko, member for Likoni.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, from the onset, I want to congratulate Honorable Kiare for coming up with this motion. And Honorable Speaker, I just want to say from the beginning that there has been a significant increase in the number of Kenyan youth involved in the artisan industry. And this is an area where we can create a lot of employment. Honorable Speaker, this is the time where we need to shift the youth from being employees to being employers by creating their own industries, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, when you talk about handcrafts, coming from Mombasa County, where we have a small industry by the Akamba community, and we call it Akamba Handcraft Industry. They have employed several Kenyans in that small industry, but they don't have financial opportunities where maybe they could strengthen that small industry so that they employ more Kenyans, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, when you talk about painting, and you see our Kenyans, people do a lot of colorful artwork, they display our traditions, they display so many issues, and this is an area where if you put more funding, these people can create employment, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I want to agree that it is important that we can take 2% of the NGCDA funds so that we can give to our youth through trainings, because as members of parliament, we have created the TVET, the colleges whereby our youth can undertake several skills in terms of artisans. Madam Speaker, these people have experienced a lot of challenges. One of the challenges is globalization of products. where they encounter a lot of competitive in terms of pricing, because Kenya has also been one of the areas where other countries are dumping their products. Honorable Speaker, if you're not going to emphasize on the concept of buy Kenya and build Kenya, then we are not going to reduce the big burden of importation, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I just want to say that where I come from, there are several youth who have ventured in filming industry, but they don't have funding, Madam Speaker. And this is a problem. And because NGCDF, we don't cater for social programs, it becomes very difficult for us to promote them, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the other issue is lack of markets. We have come out with different products, but do we have markets? The answer is no. Even the local market, as Kenyans, we need to start embracing our own products, which have been innovated by our own youth and our own Kenyans. That is the only way we can ensure this product, at least they have market, Madam Speaker. The other issue, Madam Speaker, we also need to have a protection in terms of copyright and patent right of our products. The kiondo, which is made by the Akamba community. Today, there are so many other communities innovating kiondo and maybe taking the responsibility or taking the patent right of having the kiondo. And yet the kiondo comes from the Akamba community. Madam Speaker, through artisan, this is also a way to ensure that our cultures are being upheld. The Maasai community, with their bracelets, with their earrings, and so many other instruments and equipment, even the drums, Madam Speaker. These are all equipments which, when we put more funds, maybe they can create employment, and also they can also create income to our country, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this is an area where it can greatly reduce our import cost, which it has access to 2 billion right now, Madam Speaker. It is something, maybe we can find it is something small, but if we just think outside the box, Madam Speaker, then maybe even the Kenya Kwanza agenda of creating employment, this is an area where you need to put more funding. And there must be special funding, there must be special structures to ensure that this funding will trickle down to the grassroots level. Because right now in my constituent, for instance, I have the Susumilas, the Chikuzes, they are good musicians, but where are they? They don't have any fortune because they are not recognized, they don't have finances, so they are just there just singing during the campaigns time.
The Honorable Kasim Tandaza, member for Matuga constituency.
Asante sana Madam Speaker. Kwanza nichukue fursa hii kumshukuru Mwenyezi Mungu aliyetuwezesha sote kuwa hapa na watu wa Matuga kwa ujumla kwa kuturegesha tena kwa mara ya pili, wale ambao wamekuja mara ya pili. Nichukue fursa hii kupeana kongole kwa Mheshimiwa KJ. Na ile miswada ambayo huwa analeta hapa na mijadala ambayo huleta moja kwa moja inaashiria kwamba yeye atakuwa mbunge wa Dagoretti mpaka pale labda yeye mwenyewe atakapoona labda anataka kwenda sehemu zingine, kwa sababu huwa analeta mambo ambayo yanaweza kubadilisha nchi hii, yanaweza kubadilisha wananchi wetu wa Kenya ambao wana taaluma mbalimbali. Ningechukua pia fursa hii kumwelezea Bwana KJ, mimi kama naibu mwenyekiti wa NGCDF. Saa hizi tunazungumzia hili swala kama mjadala, na ikiwa ni mjadala mara nyingi huwa unaishia hapa. Kwa hivyo natoa ombi kwake aweze kuchukua jambo hili na kulitengeneza mswada ambalo moja kwa moja nataka kuhakikishia Bwana KJ litakapokuja katika kamati ya NGCDF, na hakikisha tutalipatia kipaumbele, kwa sababu ni jambo ambalo ni la muhimu na litaweza kubadilisha yale matatizo na tetesi ambazo tuko nazo katika constituency zetu. Nikiwa hapa saa hizi na kijana pale Kombani anaitwa Hassan Nur, ambaye aliweza kunialika kwake nyumbani, na nilipofika akanionyesha vile anaweza kugeuza moshi na kufanya mwangaza wa taa. Moshi ule wa kawaida ambao huwa unatumika karibu majumba yote, kwa sababu sehemu zetu nyingi isipokuwa labda kwa KJ kwake ni mjini, hakuna moshi, anatumia stima na gesi, lakini na imani wabunge wengi kule wanakotoka moshi unapatikana. Kijana huyu ana huo ujuzi, anageuza moshi na anawakisha taa kutoka ule moshi. Lakini mbali na kuona na kufurahia, na labda siku hiyo kama nilikuwa na chochote cha kumpa, labda akanunue sukari, nilimpatia. Hakuna jambo jingine zaidi ambalo ningeweza kumsaidia kama mbunge wa eneo hili, na najua taaluma kama hizi ziko kila mahali. Tukiangalia katika ile maeneo ya pwani, kuna taaluma ya kushona kofia zile ambazo huwa ziko ghali. Tunazungumzia kofia ambazo huuzwa kwa takriban 20,000, 25,000, na mara nyingi hushonwa na wakina mama. Saa hizi kwa sababu ya ukosefu wa kuweza kusaidiwa kiserikali na kimfumo, asante. Nimeanzia na Madam Speaker, sasa naona ni Mr. Speaker saa sija tukaweza kutofautiana. Kwa hivyo Bwana Speaker, nadhani pia umeweza kuhifadhi muda wangu na kuniongezea dakika 6 zaidi kwa kule kusimama wakati sikuweza kuzungumza. Katika zile taaluma ambazo tuko nazo katika sehemu mbalimbali za nchi, nilikuwa nazungumzia taaluma ya hasa maeneo ya pwani na kule kwangu eneo bunge la Matuga. Wale ambao wana ujuzi wa kushona kofia kama ile ambao mheshimiwa amevaa pale mbele. Kofia ile takriban huo unaenda ikiwa ni kwa urahisi ni shilingi 20,000. Kwa sababu sio rahisi kutengeneza kushona kofia kama ile. Lakini kwa sababu ya ukosefu wa mfumo wa kiserikali wa kuona kwamba taaluma kama ile inaweza kuzalisha kwa wingi, saa hizi tuna kofia kama zile ambazo zinatoka China. Ukiziangalia huwezi kuona tofauti baina ya kofia ile ambayo imeshonwa na watu wetu hapa na ile ambayo imetoka China. Na kwa sababu wao wameweza kusimamiwa na serikali na mashirika yao, zinakuja zikiwa ziko rahisi, ukiziangalia unaziona ziko sawa, lakini inauzwa shilingi 5,000, shilingi 6,000. Hii inamaanisha kwamba yule Mkenya ambaye ana taaluma kama ile angekuwa amesaidiwa, na yeye angekuwa anaweza kuzalisha na kuuza nchi mbalimbali na kuleta fedha kwake na hata kwa nchi nzima, kwa sababu zitakuwa zinauzwa katika nchi za kigeni. Tumewacha taaluma kama hizo zinatumiwa na Wachina, wanaturegeshea sisi, wanazalisha kazi kwao, sisi wetu wanakosa kazi. Kwa hivyo katika mswada huu ni muhimu kwamba uweze kubadilishwa, uwe sheria na kuwe na kusimamizi kamili ya kuona kwamba ni vipi vijana wetu wanaweza kutumia taaluma zao. Kwa sababu kama waliotangulia kusema, utakuta kwamba mara nyingi watu wanakuja kwa wabunge na inabidi wafanye hivyo, kwa sababu ukiangalia haya mashirika mengine, hata tukizungumzia Uwezo Fund, Women Fund, Youth Fund, hizi ni fund ambazo zinabaki maofisini. Watu wengi kule vijijini hawazifahamu, hawana njia ya kuweza kujua fund kama hizi. lakini wakati wowote ambayo fund huwa ina mbunge, kwa sababu mbunge mwenyewe ndio huwa anatembea karibu kila mahali, basi moja kwa moja huwa inanufaisha watu wengi, nufaisha watu wengi, na moja kwa moja inapata watu wale ambao wanahusika zaidi. Kwa sababu ya muda, ningetaka kutoa kongole na kusema na uunga mkono mswada huu na uweze kuwa sheria ili uweze kunufaisha nchi nzima kwa ujumla. Asante Bwana Spika.
Okay, thank you so much. Honorable members, I'm reliably informed that there are those who had logged in before the system went off, and the system went off with them. And there are those who now appear as number one from the list I have. And as you know, normally I would want to follow the list the way it is. But today I'll have an exception. I will be able to juggle between those who are logged in and were logged off before the system went off, and those who are here. Because I've given Paul Murigi, an honorable member for Gembe South, I'll allow him this opportunity. Then he'll be followed by the Honorable Nyekal. Please don't carry your hand up. I've said I've been given a list of those who had logged in earlier. I will try to juggle between the two lists. Coming here won't help anybody.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I raise to support this motion, motion which is brought in this house by Honorable KJ. Mr. Speaker, this is the right time now to start focusing on the young people. Mr. Speaker, as you know, the largest population of this country, over 68 to 75%, consists of the young people, Mr. Speaker, and those are the people who are in their hand of jobs, Mr. Speaker. But we rarely provide jobs to them, Mr. Speaker, because in this country, most of the companies, Mr. Speaker, are saturated, Mr. Speaker. So there are no jobs there. So, Mr. Speaker, when this motion proposes that we give at least 2% to the young people, it is a good idea, Mr. Speaker, which all of us we are supposed to support and make all our effort, Mr. Speaker, in ensuring that we pass this motion, Mr. Speaker. Because especially in my constituencies, Mr. Speaker, I have very many young people who are talented, Mr. Speaker. Some of them are artists, others are artisans, Mr. Speaker, and even some, Mr. Speaker, normally do the artworks, but the tools to do that job, Mr. Speaker, they do not have. But if we provide this fund in NGCDF, Mr. Speaker, we will be in a right position, Mr. Speaker, of funding these groups of the young people to make sure, Mr. Speaker, that they have their own tools, Mr. Speaker, so that they can be able to do their work quite easily, Mr. Speaker. Also, Mr. Speaker, as we are empowering the young people, we must, as the government or as the legislatures, we must empower them, Mr. Speaker, through providing the provisions, Mr. Speaker, which will encourage them to sell their product within this country and even exporting them, Mr. Speaker. As we all know, we normally import a lot of things from outside this country, the things which we have young people who have the capacity, Mr. Speaker, of providing or even manufacturing them, Mr. Speaker. So it is the right time, Mr. Speaker, we support this motion, Mr. Speaker, to ensure that our young people, Mr. Speaker, are catered for and they are empowered, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, during our concluded or our just concluded election, Mr. Speaker, we had many young people who are campaigning for us, Mr. Speaker, and we promised them that, Mr. Speaker, we will empower them. Mr. Speaker, I want to say that the future of our young people, Mr. Speaker, is bright because we have the NGCDF fund, Mr. Speaker, and we are ready to give the 2% to empower them, Mr. Speaker, so that they can better their lives. With that, Mr. Speaker, I beg to support. Thank you very much.
Honorable Nyakal.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for retrieving the lost list and giving me this opportunity. Mr. Speaker, I rise to support this motion and congratulate the Honorable Mheshimiwa who has brought it on. I do so, Mr. Speaker, because this motion addresses one of our greatest socioeconomic challenges in this country, the unemployment amongst the youth. Unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, that same challenge is actually our greatest potential, because without addressing the youth unemployment, without getting the youth actively involved in job creation and production, this nation cannot go very far. Unfortunately, again, Mr. Speaker, our education system in the past has completely ignored this area and directed our young people towards white-collar jobs. Every young person leaves the university or college to look for a job, not to create a job. Innovation, self-employment, job creation has been totally ignored in our education system. Mr. Speaker, I know, and you are aware, that in the past we had mid-level colleges. All of them were actually closed and turned into universities, and mainly on humanities that are easy to set up. And that we lost that opportunity to equip our young people with technical knowledge and skills. We hope the task force that has been put up in the Ministry of Education will address this matter. Mr. Speaker, I support this motion because it's appropriate that now we use what we have to address the shortcomings that we had before, to empower national government, CDF, National Government Constituency Development Fund, Uwezo Fund, and Youth Fund to support young people in this area is actually a great innovation. Once again, I congratulate Honorable Kiarie. So that we can apply this in supporting technical training, skill development, as well as providing technology and tools. Fortunately, Mr. Speaker, as it is now with the NGCDF, we can actually give bursaries to people in TVETs. And so the only area that we really must address now is after they have got these skills, are they able to get the wherewithal to actually start, even in a small way, their own businesses, the things they can do. And I support that we must do this. Uwezo and Youth Fund are designed for groups. My experience in my constituency is that it is very difficult to organize people, not only the youth, in groups, because the motivation, the ambition is never within a group. It is within an individual. And in fact, individuals that seek to actually move forward are quite often discouraged by the group dynamics. So I think if we can get NGCDF and we can change the regulations so that we give that 2%, and later on actually seek more in the budget, I think that will go a long way. This will actually initiate self-employment. And Mr. Speaker, nobody will ever create a job for himself without creating a job for somebody else. Anybody who is self-employed, more often than not, will employ other people. And when people do this, even somebody who is just making a fence has to get somebody to do them. Even somebody who is creating an art has to get somebody to do them. And often, if now they are supported properly, it has a huge multiplier effect. When they start to generate these businesses, they actually, supply chains come in and support that. So, Mr. Speaker, I support this motion, and it is good that the motion is asking that we resolve. And if it is not implemented, I hope Honorable Kiari will go to the implementation committee, will follow the CDF committee so that it is actually implemented. It's something support, and we will even look for more funds to support this area. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Yusuf Adan of Mandera West.
Thank you, Speaker, for giving me the opportunity. I've really waited this morning. I stand to support this motion by Honorable J. Carrier. It is very timely indeed. This is a country where youth are majority, and unemployment is a very serious level. Unemployment levels are at serious levels, and it is very dangerous to continue having unemployed youth in this country from even security point of view. Artisans are where jobs are easily available. As soon as they get the skills required and the tools required, jobs are always there. And these jobs are in every country. Artisans are very important in our economy. They produce wares that are affordable, that are durable, and that are user-friendly all over. And by developing these artisans, they only need two things. The first thing they need is, of course, support in terms of finance, which Honorable J.K. has shown up as 2% of the CDF, but the other source of fund can be the Hustler Fund, which His Excellency the President is going to launch on the 1st of December. I think that is where it is very appropriate, and that is where we can get adequate funding for artisans. Nobody is more hustler than artisans themselves. So when we talk of Hustler Fund and we talk of artisans, then the majority of that money, the Hustler Fund, I think maybe 30% of the Hustler Fund or even 50% of the Hustler Fund should go in supporting the artisans. And these artisans are so important in our day-to-day life that a lot of raw materials that we produce in this country today go to waste because our artisans are not supported, our artisans are not given the skills required, our artisans do not have the necessary tools they need to work with. For example, if I take an example as the constituency where I come from, Mandera West, in our slaughterhouses, we slaughter thousands of goats and cattle, sheep, camels every morning for meat supply of the town. Unfortunately, all the leathers, all the hides and skins are thrown away. This is because our artisans who used to produce leather belts, leather shoes, leather masalas are no longer able to produce because their skills do not develop, they do not have the necessary tools that are required. Imagine us getting toothpick, importing toothpick from China when we have a lot of twigs around and when we have our artisans, just because we have not done the right fits. Hence, I stand here to support this motion, and hopefully it is going to become a bill, it's going to become a law, and it will be implemented to the latter. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. This chance goes to the Honorable Katai Bisau, wherever he is. You can speak from where you are. We'll give you the mic from wherever you are. There's a mic coming to you. It's a mic coming to you, just relax.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. And on the onset, I want to thank Mheshimiwa Kiharie for bringing up this motion. This motion is very, very important because in most situations, we've not given opportunities to the great minds and great innovators we have in this country. So to me, Mr. Speaker, sir, supporting this motion on the onset, I would wish that first of all, we realize that when we're talking about artisans, we look at the software component, which are musicians, an example, actors, etc., but at the same time also look at the hardware component, so that once this fund has been approved, there are no challenges to say that, in terms of definition of the beneficiaries. So we would like that actually these funds are availed, and in fact, looking at the figures, 2% is really on the lower side. But I believe that from the other creative funds that are coming up, like the Hustler Fund, maybe we'll be looking at something like 10% or not even 15% being sort of earmarked for this particular industry. So, Mr. Speaker, sir, I support this motion, but even as I support this motion, I would wish that we give it the priority it requires, because in most cases, looking at the records, there are some of very great motions like this particular one have come in this house, and they've just sort of, pushed back on the shelves. So, Mr. Speaker, sir, I support this motion, but clearly it should cover both the soft component, which is actually musicians and actors, but also the ones that also use their hands to come up with them creative. And lastly, Mr. Speaker, sir, even as we pass this motion as the lawmakers, we must walk the talk. Because in most cases, you find that we have that preference of imported goods that are made outside our jurisdiction. So we're talking about even the clothing. We need to focus on clothing that are made locally. If, the utensils that are made locally, like an example from Carlworks. So we really need to walk the talk as lawmakers. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Thank you. The Honorable Mboni Mwauka of Kitui Rural, if he's in the house. Is he in? Then I'll give the chance to the Honorable Danson Mashako of Wundanyi.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika kwa kunipa nafasi hii ya kuunga mkono mswada ulioletwa na ndugu yangu, rafiki yangu Mheshimiwa Kiharie, kuwa basi wasanii wetu tuweze kuangalia haswa masuala ya kuwapa fedha ya kufanya ama ya kukuza vipawa vyao. Mheshimiwa Spika, Mheshimiwa Spika, mswada huu umekuja kwa wakati unaofaa. Unajua Kenya tuko na shida kubwa ya ukosefu wa kazi, ambapo vijana wengi wako kule nje, wengi wameenda shule, wamesoma vizuri, lakini wamekosa kupata ajira. Mheshimiwa Spika, wengi wao wana talanta tofauti ambazo wangeshikwa mkono ama wangeweza kufadhiliwa, basi tungekuwa tumepunguza ukosefu wa kazi katika nafasi ama katika sehemu kubwa. Mheshimiwa Spika, lakini pia ijulikane kwamba Mheshimiwa John Kiharie ambaye ameleta mswada huu alipokuwa chuo kikuu alikuwa mbunifu sana na mambo haya ya usanii. Nakumbuka alikuwa na kikundi wanakiita Ridiculous. Tukiwa naye pale Kenyatta University, Mheshimiwa Spika, tulikuwa tuna muenzi sana. Na alipokuja bunge la kitaifa, nimeona kuwa basi kwa kweli kumbe wasanii wakienda katika viwango vya utunzi wa sheria na kile inaitwa policy formulation, Mheshimiwa Spika, basi mambo kama haya ama bunge la kitaifa limepata mtu mzuri wa kusaidia kuangazia sanaa na vijana wetu ambao wako na vipawa, Mheshimiwa Spika. Mheshimiwa Spika, pia niseme kwamba unajua Mwenyezi Mungu ndiye aliyekuwa msanii wa kwanza. Maanake ubunifu wote ambao tunaufanya leo utakuta kwamba Mwenyezi Mungu ndiye aliyekuwa the first artist, wanasema kwa kimombo. Kuumba dunia, kuumba wanadamu, kuumba vyote viliomo tunavyoviona na tusivyoviona, Mheshimiwa Spika, ilikuwa ni sanaa ya juu sana Mwenyezi Mungu aliifanya. Kwa hivyo mimi naamini kwamba sanaa ama usanii una baraka fulani kutoka kwa Mwenyezi Mungu. Na kwa hivyo sisi kama wajumbe tuko na jukumu kubwa la kuona kwamba tumewashika mkono vijana wetu, tumewashika mkono wale walio na ubunifu aina mbalimbali. Na mara nyingi tukiongea usanii, Mheshimiwa Spika, wengi hufikiria tu waimbaji. Lakini tuko na sanaa tofauti tofauti, uchoraji, Mheshimiwa Spika. Kuna vijana wako na tajriba kubwa katika uchoraji. Utakuta kwamba sanaa ile haijapewa kipaumbele sana nchini Kenya. Lakini ukienda nchi za nje, sana sana za magharibi, wamebobea sana wasanii wa uchoraji. Kwa hivyo Mheshimiwa Spika, swala hili ama mswada huu wa kujaribu kutafuta pesa za kusaidia vijana ambao wana ubunifu, mimi nasema kwamba 2% ni kidogo, na hata kama CDF itatenga hiyo 2% ya kusaidia watu hawa, ile inayoitwa Hustler Fund basi iweke 1% kubwa, ili tunapofikiria wajiri, Mheshimiwa Spika, tuona vijana wamejiajiri wenyewe. Kama kwangu, Mheshimiwa Spika, eneo bunge langu la Undanyi, nina vijana wanajiita Taita Upcoming Talent, Taita and Upcoming Talent, na wengine wanajiita Vigogo Media. Wale ni wasanii wamebobea sana. Nina vijana wa muziki, mmoja anajiita Babas Millionaire. Hawa ni watu ambao tukiwashika mkono kiukweli, basi watapiga hatua ya kimaisha na wataajiri wengine, na hali ya usanii nchini Kenya italeta ajira kubwa, na tupigane na hili janga la ukosefu wa kazi, Mheshimiwa Spika. Mheshimiwa Spika, naunga mkono mswada huu kusema kwamba bunge hili lipitishe kwa haraka na ifike mahali basi pia tuweze kupewa, iwe kama sheria, wacha huu ni mswada tu, iwe ni sheria kwamba kila hazina itakapotengezwa iwe na 1% fulani ya kusaidia masuala ya usanii na sanaa. Mheshimiwa Spika, naunga mkono. Asante.
Thank you so much, Honorable Mashako. Before we proceed, I wish to recognize the presence in the public gallery of students from Prime Junior Academy from Kajiado North, students from St. Catherine's Ngaru Girls from Vinyaga Central, Vinyaga, and students from Ulinzi High School, Kibwezi West, Makweni. We welcome them to watch the proceedings of Parliament today. Thank you. This chance goes to Honorable Beatrice Elachi of Dagoretti.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, first of all, I want to thank the Honorable John Kiarie, my neighbor, who has stood with me for many, many, many years and still stands with me. And today, as we bring in this motion, Mr. Speaker, as we support it, I want to just say he is one role model for many since the time he was in campus, that indeed you can find a living in many of the different SMEs that we have in this country. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, as I say that, I just want to really appreciate that in this country, when we look at our young people today, and indeed we've just finished a campaign where we used so many young people with different talents. Some of them were using your vehicles to just go around and announce. Some of them were your media teams. And today I know most of them are even asking for jobs. Looking at the different sectors that the government has put in place, you remember, Mr. Speaker, the academy, the music academy that we have, and I'm hoping also we can really use that as one of the places we can take our young people for training. But more importantly, every sector that you go, they will always say that there are no resources, and true, there are no resources. And that is why you find our young people, even now after COVID, you look at our young people who are on the roads trying to do gymnastics and trying to just get a living. And so you can imagine if they had resources to just boost themselves and put a place where they can just go and entertain people, they will be able, Mr. Speaker, to have a living, but more importantly, to employ others. And I think when you read this motion, you get excited that indeed, further, and to see that this House will resolve and the ministry formulates a policy ring-fencing the 2% of the monies. As Dr. said, I think we need to use Uwezo Fund more differently now. And that Uwezo Fund should go to young people who have talents, who are within our constituencies, in our wards, and who are able already. They are trying to do something, but they are running around. They come, they ask you, Mheshimiwa, assist us with this, buy us an equipment, buy us an innovation that we are able, even just putting up an hub and to create hubs that can now create employments for others. This resource can really support. And therefore, even in terms of imports, we are talking about building Kenya. Yes, we build Kenya, but we need to take them to train. We need to ask the government to even go beyond and give us an incentive for young people so that when they bring in their equipments, so that they are able to have equipments to finish that value chain and to be a value chain that is marketable in market. And so this 2%, many will think that it's a small resource, but to young people in this country to get equipment so that they are able to boost their different innovations, I think it is important this House resolves, as our honorable member says, that 2% from Uwezo Fund. Because when you look at Uwezo Fund today, we have some who took the money, who believed this is a resource of government. They never refunded, Mr. Speaker. There are those who wished to see the resource, but they were unable even to access that resource. There are those who are wondering, was it only for trade? And so young people with their innovations, not all of them will go to trade in a market. Most of them will want to have an application, an app to do something on their phone, digitize any innovation that they think for, come up with different apps that can do quite a number of things within our constituencies. And therefore, as I support this, I just want to thank the Honorable Kiarie, and indeed to thank you that you are also giving us food for the children of Dagoretti North, that today they are able to find lunch in their schools. We want to say thank you. And indeed, I'm hoping, even as we go forward, that there are many things we'll work together.
Give the Honorable Sargon Jematia. The Honorable Sargon Jematia. You got the mic. You have the mic with you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. From the onset, I want to thank Honorable KJ who is my chair in my committee of ICT, for this very important motion before us today. And I must say that this motion has come at the right time, because we live in a country, or Kenya today is facing a lot of unemployment, but we are overlooking the importance of artisans in this country. First thing first, the artisans, or the work of artisans and talented, or God's gift that has been there for the longest in our lives. Because when we grew up, we used to see our mothers doing a lot of handwork. Some of us went to school during the art and crafts lessons, when we were exposed to use our own skills and develop our own talents. Mr. Speaker, I must say that this country is in the best time because of the innovations and the exposure to internet that we have in Kenya today. And unemployment is going to be sorted and solved when we give opportunity to young people, women, and talented people who can innovate and make money at their comfort zones, or through the computers, for instance, through YouTube's, Spotify, and help them generate income, not necessarily through white-collar jobs. If you look at most of the artisans that we have in this country, we have people who make very nice ushanga, for instance, like the Maasais and the Maa community. These are custom-made. You can never get it anywhere else. If you ask and if you request to have a good beadwork, like a necklace, for instance, you can get it in a very special way, quality, durable, and these are the things that we need to encourage our people to continue having it. We also have carvings and brickworks, for instance. Music is one of the things that has been controlling the world. Through music, talents and money has been made because you are able to sit down and generate your own income in your own way. And therefore, I support this motion. But on the rather that, Honorable KJ has requested that it should be, they should do it through CDF. But I want to also remind the House that we already have an NGAF, which already have exposed these artisans through social money that we get through NGAF. Because NGAF money is not always, not for development, probably for roads and buildings of, it is mainly socio-economic. And this socio-economic is well articulated well in NGAF. And I would want to say that as much as my colleague has brought it through CDF, I want to say through the floor that it could be also important for us to enhance this money through the national NGAF money, so that, because it is actually picking out from the same roles that NGAF is playing. We are targeting youth, we are targeting women, we are targeting people with disability. So as much as we want, or my colleague has brought it up through CDF, I think NGAF could take care of this very well. And I am asking that probably we'll be doing amendments going forward that this money should be kept in the women NGAF, so that we are able to do it better, because we are the people who are always exposed to this, the cohorts in the society. The startups, for instance, we will be the best to implement, because we sit down and we interact with the women in the grassroots. And I would be seeking indulgence through my colleague that when we'll be doing the amendments and taking forward this bill or motion, I will want to ask him to include that this money should be taken back to the NGAF instead of the CDF. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Samuel Moroto.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. You have given me also this chance to support this motion. I want to congratulate KJ for coming with this good idea. the way others have said about him. I saw him when he was young. And then one time, he was taking tea with Moi and Kamoto K. Then we saw him, and he's a friend. Another one was acting like Moi, another one was acting like Kamoto. And these two guys were really enjoying. Also enjoying. I thought they were going to be annoyed about it, but they really enjoyed. And here now today, he has brought up a motion, which I know, with the support of this House and the current government that we have, I know will go far. Mr. Speaker, when we talk about these artists, I remember even in my press, one time there was the neighboring communities which were not seeing each other. That is the Karamojong of Uganda, the Sabey of Uganda, the Bokot and the Turkana. As Mr. Speaker, during that time when an athlete, Tekla Lorope, came up with a kind of a peace caravan, where initiated artists to come together from all these communities, and really they entertain. And you see, they're just speaking from their own languages, teaching their people on how to behave. And everything changed. Up to now, you cannot hear these communities fighting. Equally, as a member here has mentioned about Omondi and Churchill. Both were students here in Daystar University. Mr. Speaker, there was a time when Omondi could not even raise even half of his fee for his education. But you see now where he is, the position he has is so beyond even some of us who are there paying for ourselves and maybe earning. So this thing here, I want to say, Ms. Honorable Kiari, this young man here, you have brought a very good idea. And others, yeah, I know other young men are now following, and they are prepared to do something. And always, Mr. Speaker, why we talk of this one here, let us, like one member here said, let us walk the talk. Because I know most of the time, some of us have been here for a long time, you can raise something very good here, but it will not see. You will find the light of the day. You will get that the papers you get it from here is gathering dust in a certain corner, and nothing that will benefit the Kenyans. I think we need to be serious on this one here, and then we also have to get a right committee from this House that will do a follow-up. Otherwise, if we say now we are going to do this, we are going to do this, somebody will come and say, okay, get us where your money is. And yet there is resources being wasted elsewhere without any, doing a tangible thing that can touch the hearts or the lives of Kenyans the way this one is going to do, Mr. Speaker. Otherwise, I don't want to say much because my colleagues have said, and I know we will have to support this thing here. I stand here to support the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the point at hand is the whole issue of resourcing artisans. But I want to believe KJ may need to do a little bit more work in terms of when we're talking about artisans. Who are these artisans? I think there's a very big problem in terms of definition. Like I hear many members when they're talking, some are like referring to people who are in the music and entertainment industry. But when you look at this in the stricter sense of it, there are artisans who are career-wise or professional-wise through some training. Then there are those who are artisans based on learning on job, apprenticeship. Then there are those who are they are artisans, but based on the kind of like they have done non-academic skill development arrangements. So the whole issue of definition here, KJ, may be very, very critical. So that when we are talking about resourcing, we are resourcing what kind of an artisan? Are we resourcing that who is in the music industry? Is that an artisan or is an artist? And when you look at that, I want to give an example. There is a professor of mathematics in Maseno who does a lot in music. And to him, music is either like a hobby or is like part of entertainment.
but he's a professional mathematician, and he's a lecturer at the Maseno University. So when you look at people who are in the music or entertainment industry and you call them artisans, then this needs to be redefined. We need to check this properly. So, Mr. Speaker, what I'm trying to look at, having artisans in their very global sense for purpose of resourcing, we need to check, such that we really resource artisans that really require resources. There are those who are coming up like apprenticeship. There are those who are, in terms of those who are doing the trade test arrangement, the trade tests. Those are the artisans that are very clearly known in terms of career development. They do trade test 1, 2, 3, and you remember, Mr. Speaker, there's no professional that is minus an artisan under them.
The Honorable Kiari wants to inform you. Do you want to be
okay.
informed?
Information, any good person must allow for information.
And Honorable Kiari you will not debate. You will inform and allow him to proceed with the debate.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And I was not intending to interrupt the good gentleman, the Honorable Ochanda. I just wanted, and I'm glad for his magnanimity to accept to be informed. But in the life of the last parliament, Mr. Speaker, this House, in its own wisdom, did go through the process of passing a bill that went a long way in forming artists' register. And in that artist register, if the Honorable Ochanda would remember, we were able to describe very ably who an artist is, who an artisan is, and who an innovator is. And I'm really glad that he did bring this up, because he's able to also inform the debate as it goes on. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and I do thank the Honorable Ochanda for bringing that up. Thank you very much.
Is apt, huh? And that's the kind of information that if all members, when they are contributing to this, were aware that there was that kind of a definition, I think that would have been very good. But if you get the kind of a debate that is running across the floor since this started, it's like members are not very clearly aware of what kind of artisans are we talking about. So the motion, the way it is drafted, needed to have indicated when we are talking about an artisan, who is it, so that it guides members in debate. Because members are thinking that artisans are people who are cartoonists, people who are in the music industry. So look at the discussion. I think that's where the problem is. But if you look at it in the stricted sense of what we are talking about, there are people who are artisans based on their own career development. They do trade tests 1 all through, and you are supposed to be, you have the space to do a technical level, then you have to do a professional level. So if you look at it that direction, then definitely there are those who are already placed. But then there are those who have learned on the job, what we call apprenticeship. They are in Juakali, they are in Kikombao, they are all manner of places. They have learned how to do some of these things, skill development under some professionals, under some people who have technical know-how. These are the people that we really need to be talking about when we are talking about resourcing. And when we are talking about resourcing, it means that we don't need to target an existing fund that has a purpose. We need to target funds that are supposed to be clearly isolated for that kind of a scheme, Mr. Speaker. So that's what I wanted to guide the House, Mr. Speaker, as we move forward.
Mr. Speaker, I rise. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for that clarification, if anybody was thinking that you're favoring me. Mr. Speaker, I rise to support this motion for a number of reasons, but I'm going to cite only a few. If this country is going to grow, as we all intend to have Kenya grow economically, industrialization is one of the ways to go. And we're going to get the bulk of industrialization from the artisans, from what they do and what they contribute to the economy. And therefore, two, a lot of our youth are in this sector of the economy in all kinds of skills that they display and as artisans. And we know that the population of our youth in this country is about 70%, and about 68% is unemployed. So if we want to tackle the problem of unemployment, we need to support our artisans as a way of solving that problem. Number three, Mr. Speaker, we have huge potential in the international market for Kenyan products which we hardly exploit. For example, under the AGOA, in the US market, we hardly exploit the opportunities there. We hardly exploit 10%. So by supporting our artisans to be able to develop and produce the goods and services, we'll probably be able to be tapping into that market and taking advantage of what's been provided by the US market. But we also need to be cognizant of the full chain of artisanry. We need to be aware of where the ideas are generated, how we guard the ideas so that they are not appropriated by unscrupulous business people and other investors, particularly the foreign investors. So through protecting the intellectual property rights of these people who create and come about with these ideas. We also need to be able to nurture these ideas so that they are properly developed through institutions by providing adequate financing, by having the TVETs, for example. Where I come from, my constituency, Mr. Speaker, we don't have a TVET. I hope that in the next few years, next year, we should be having a TVET so that we can be able to have our artisans trained, our apprentices trained so that they can be able to contribute to the economy. I'm not very confident that the 2% we are asking for is going to be adequate to support the artisans. Probably we need to go back and do the math and be able to come out with a figure that's going to be adequate in supporting the artisans because they play a very critical role in contributing to unemployment, to the economy, and all of that. Mr. Speaker, all the economies that have developed, all the economies have been gone through industrialization phase, have had to use their innovators, they have got to use all their people who have the bright ideas of creativity to be where they are. Therefore, Kenya should not be left behind by neglecting its artisans. If anything, we should be investing in them so that we can develop and have Kenya become the middle-income economy as well, where we desire to be. We need to develop many Silicon Valleys in our regions, in our constituencies. And the way of developing these Silicon Valleys is by having adequate financing, the resources, encouraging these people, and giving them all that they need to be able to make a contribution in the economy. Mr. Speaker, I beg to support, and thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. First, I want to congratulate the KJ, Honorable from Dagoretti South, on this motion. In my understanding, the motion covers both artists, artisans, and innovation and innovators. And to this end, I think we will be able to bring in a huge group of our population that has been out there and able to be able to expand their ideas and also to bring out the talent that is within themselves. This allocation, first I want to say, KJ, we may need, Honorable KJ, we may need to expand more on the percentage that we are asking on this. Probably 5% of the CDF allocation would be able to cater for this. In my mind, I have the many groups, the youth, musicians in my constituency, Bureti, those both who do various choirs and also those who do different kind of music, including the traditional dancers, being organized into groups that they may be able to present themselves to the market and be able to earn from their talents. While we are in the campaigns, Mr. Speaker, I noticed so many youth peddling portraits, paintings, and drawings of politicians, selling them, some of them hawking them. This will really come in handy to be able to help such youth to be able to do the paintings, be able to do the drawings and the many things out of their art and be able to earn a living and be members of our of the society. Number two, this will also provide us with opportunities to be able to bring together such kind of groups and such kind of members of society. If, in an example, we are able to create recording studios within our constituencies for the musicians, how much will that be able to go into solving the problems that we have within the youth community in our constituencies? However, I have these thoughts also, that we are aware that the Kenya Kwanza government is also planning on this, the Hustler, the bottom-up approach, the Hustler Fund. I would implore upon KJ to start looking upon ways and means of actually including this motion as part of a clause to be able to anchor it within the law, so that we'll be able to have our musicians, our artists, our artisans, and also the innovators to be able to participate within what we are calling the bottom-up approach. Including this will be even the social media influencers. I'm aware that a lot of the social media sites that we have are able to help these youth to earn a living out of the work that they do, whether is it TikTok or in whatever form that they are involving themselves in. If we are able to help these guys, even by training them or presenting them with opportunities with other environments or other groups of communities that have engaged in such kind of work, for us, the only thing that we are seeking is that people should be able to earn a living out of their talents. Kenyans should be able to obtain revenues out of the work that they're able to do, however that comes through. And if by supporting this motion, we are bringing this on board, I would be glad that this be part of the constituency fund, be funded through the constituency fund, and so that our people may be able to participate. Otherwise, I support the motion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, my brother KJ, for this particular motion. These are very important motion. Amid unemployment is generating employment for the youth. Like if you look at my constituencies, we have youth who are making hydro pumps, as well as people are making wood carves. So if you look at countries like China, Korea, they have developed through innovations. So these are very important motion, and I fully support it. Ideally, this particular motion should actually be entrenched in the CDF, because in principle, Mr. Speaker, we should be earning foreign exchange through sale of local artisans. And some of the proposal to make in this particular motion, in including zero rating products made by local artisans, so that at least we promote them and we generate markets for them. Importantly, we need to commit our embassies abroad basically to market products made by local artisans. So, Mr. Speaker, this is important, and we also need to commit funds, because most of the local artisans, they lack money to be able to enhance their skills. Like my brother mentioned this morning, we also need to specify, when we talk of local artisans, which local artisans are we talking about? Because I don't think these particular motions cuts across in terms of talking about musicians and others, but we are talking of artisans who are making skills to produce handmade products. So I fully support the motion, and happy that my brother KJ was able to bring it to the House. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you much, Bwana Speaker. I want to add my voice to this motion by KJ. That has come immediately after elections. We have experience in using
the artisans during elections, and they have helped us to this much. We have used the artisans properly in their music, in their all aspects of their capacities, and this has come to at the right time, because before getting into the other national issues, before we forget what these experiences that these artisans took us through during elections, it is so enormous that we are using them without knowing that they have to earn a living. We use them in their capacities, in their knowledge, in their abilities, and this is the time we'll put this into law. We want to put it into law because it is a well-researched topic, a well-researched motion, that it is coming from a person who has had experience, who has had the challenges from all this experience that he has for the period that he worked, he served this Kenya within the time he acted with other artisans. I want to say that this has come from a person who has had experience, has had the potential, and has seen the wealth of experience that this value, this aspect of putting them into recognition is going to be appreciated by the whole of the communities of Kenya. These artisans have a lot of ideas. They have a lot of intelligence. They have developed a lot because other people have made a living from them. We want to put them that they get a living directly from the people that they have served from the dailies. I want to say that this is creating employment. This is creating employment because it gives them recognition all over the world that we want to address the local talent that have been misused for a very long time by either politicians. We have made use of them. We have made use of their resourcefulness, but this is the time we have to make them understand we appreciated the much that they did for us during the campaign, and going forward, we want to give them value for whatever they are doing. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Member for Makueni, the Honorable Rose Museo. Which one? Okay. It's not one. Okay.
Asante Speaker kwa nafasi hiyo ambayo umenipatia nikaweze kuchangia katika mada hii ambayo ni mada muhimu sana hasa kwa Wakenya. Nashukuru Mheshimiwa Kiarie kwa kuweza kuleta mada hii ambayo pia inasaidia sana. Niseme ya kwamba tumekaa sana tukiangalia wasanii wengi katika nafasi za uimbaji, nafasi za uigizaji, wale ambao pia wamepata talanta za kuweza kujaliwa kutengeneza vitu. Lakini serikali haijachukua hatua hasa kubwa ya kuweza kuangalia ni vipi wangeweza kuboresha usanii huu kwa watu hawa ambao wamepatiwa talanta hizi. Niseme Bi Speaker, tangu tukiwa wadogo tulikuwa tunamuona mzee alikuwa anaitwa Kajwang ambaye amelala, akina mama Kayai na wengi na vihoja mahakamani kutufurahisha tu kwenye televisheni, lakini unapofuatilia maisha yao baadaye unapata ya kwamba hayapendezi. Ilichukua nchi za ng'ambo kuweza kujua kwamba tuko na msanii mzuri kwa jina Lupita Nyong'o, akaweza kuwa amesifiwa katika dunia nzima na kuwa kwamba yeye ni Mkenya. Hii ni kusema kwamba Kenya tuko na wasanii na tuko na talanta mbalimbali ambao serikali ingeweza kuchukua nafasi ya kuweza kuwasaidia ili wakaweze kubobea. Unapoangalia Nigeria, tumekaa nyumbani tunaangalia filamu za Nigeria tu, ni kwa sababu tunajua serikali yao ilichukua nafasi ya kuwapatia nafasi. Ukiangalia pia katika sekta ya muziki, Tanzania ambao ni nchi jirani, unapata ya kwamba hata wao wameweza kubobea sana katika muziki pamoja na Kongo. Lakini Kenya tuko na wasanii ambao wanaweza kuimba, wengine wanamchezo kuigiza, lakini sababu serikali haijachukua hatua hiyo ya kuweza kuwasaidia kuweza kuboresha kile ambacho wanajua, nakuta ya kwamba inakuwa wanafifia alafu wanaondoka kwa stage. Wao wamebaki tu kutangazwa katika televisheni na katika magazeti alafu inaishia hapo. Kwa hivyo namshukuru sana Mheshimiwa Dagoretti kuweza kuleta hoja hii ili tukaweze kuichangia, tukiomba kwamba serikali ikaweze kutenga pesa kando ambazo zingeweza kusaidia. Ukitaka kuelewa kwamba Kenya kuna wasanii wa kipekee pia, ukienda pale Kikomba utapata kwamba kuna mambo wanafanya kwa ustadi sana, lakini yanabaki pale pale, kwa maana kama vile kimombo wanasema value addition, siwezi kusema Kiswahili wanasemaje, lakini kuongezea kile ambacho wanafanya kiweze kuwa na manufaa zaidi ambacho kingeweza kuzika katika nchi za nje. Hata nikiangalia wamama ambao walikuwa wanashona vile vyondo vya zamani, kwa sababu ya kuwa hakukuwa na pesa za kuweza kuboresha jambo hilo, unakuta ya kwamba ilichukuliwa na Wajapani wakaanza kutengeneza. Sasa watu wananunua vyondo kutoka huko upande wa Japan. Mimi ningeomba kwamba talanta hizi, kwa sababu kuna wale ambao wamesomea, lakini kuna wale ambao pia wamezalika wakiwa na talanta za kipekee, serikali ingechukua hatua kabisa kuona ni vipi wangeweza kuwasaidia hawa waweze kuboresha, na pia mashule wakachukue hatua makusudi ya kuangalia yule mtoto ambaye ako na talanta ya kipekee ambayo inaweza kukuzwa na ikaweza kuwa na manufaa Kenya. Ni kweli tunapoendelea mbele, ninaamini kwa hakika Kenya sheria hii itaweza kuwekwa, pesa zitaweza kutengwa, na pia watoto hawa wakaweze wanaokuwa wakaweze kupata nafasi ya kutambulika, ambao pia itaweza kusaidia katika ajira ya kazi, kwa maana sio wote watakoenda katika maofisi, wengine wataweza kuwa wanaweza kujiandika wenyewe kwa sababu ya talanta mbalimbali ambazo Mwenyezi Mungu amewapatia. Sababu nimesimama pia, ningependa kushukuru watu wa Makueni, Bi Speaker, kwa kunipatia nafasi ya kuwafanyia kazi kwa awamu ya 3. Nawashukuru kwa maana hawaangalii maumbile, wanaangalia kazi tunaochapa, na nashukuru. Asante sana. Asante pia kwa Mheshimiwa John Kerry.
The Honorable Member for Mathioya, Honorable Gishuki Mugo.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Speaker, for this opportunity. First of all, I want to congratulate my brother KJ for this motion. I think this motion is timely, and as one of the speakers has said, this motion involves artists, artisans, and innovators. We know most, the people or the Kenyans who are in this group, most are the young people. And the young people in this country constitute 75% of the population of this country. If you do 75% of the 52 million Kenyans, we are talking about 39 million Kenyans. So this bill or this motion directly affects 39 million Kenyans. So it's a huge, or it's a enormous bill that we really have to debate, and it has to be really refined because it is affecting most of the Kenyans. Gone are the days, Madam Speaker, when we could dictate to our children, or when our parents used to dictate to our children, we have to become doctors, pilots, accountants, and so forth. These days, our kids, they want to become artists. Others want to become artisans. So we really have to define this industry and ensure that it operates efficiently. As one of the honorable members has said, if you look at the music industry in Tanzania, in Nigeria, it's a huge business. Actually, you cannot compare to Kenya, yet we were the pioneer of some of this music. So we really have to support this bill and refine it so that most of our populations are able to benefit from it. Madam Speaker, maybe just to add on the issue of artisans. If you go back to the villages, I mean, the people or the Kenyans who are working under the NGCDF, they are plumbers, they are painters, they are welders, the people who make the windows, they are even carpenters. So these are the people that we really need to support, and we can support them through the TVETs. So if this can be anchored into the CDF, because as you know, we are trying to anchor the CDF into the Constitution. If this can be anchored into the CDF, then I think this can be a very, very great bill and motion to support our young people. As one of our honorable members has said, we know the formal employment opportunities, they are very minimal or they are very limited. So, Madam Speaker, I think artists, artisans, and innovators, they form part of the informal employment. And this is the area to go, because this industry can be able to absorb so many Kenyans. And if we can support artists, artisans, and innovators, then they start earning something. Then we can also even expand our tax base, and we can ensure that more Kenyans are also paying taxes, and they can earn a living. I think with those few remarks, Madam Speaker, I want to fully support this motion of Honorable KJ. Thank you.
The time allocated for this motion has ended, and I would now like to call upon the mover to reply.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. And because of the high interest in this motion, Madam Speaker, before I reply, I'd like to donate some time to reply to members who have indicated so much interest. I see the Honorable Anthony Oloch from Mathare, Honorable Andrew Okwome, Honorable Beatrice Adagala, Honorable Amos Mwago, Honorable Jackson Koskei, Honorable Mary Maingi, Honorable Joseph Kitari, Honorable Joseph Oyula, Honorable Wilberforce Oundo, Honorable Kirwa, and Honorable Chemorod, and the Honorable Stephen Mogaka, to each take a minute, Madam Speaker, before I reply. Thank you very much. Oh, and the Honorable Gikaria too. The Honorable Chairman Gikaria, kindly. 1 minute each.
Minute each in that order.
I thank you, Honorable Speaker, and on the same breath, allow me to congratulate my brother, Honorable Kiari, for coming up with this. It is informed by the joblessness that has percolated this nation. But I only want to take a different tangent as regards to funding of this artisan project. I would suggest, because this featured quite prominently during the campaigns by Kenya Kwanza, that this money should just come from the exchequer, not overburdening the already overburdened and overstretched CDF. Let Kenya Kwanza government come up with another fund, give it a name that is feasible to them, and let us move this country to the next level, but not looking at NGAV, not looking at CDF, but a different set of money. And I thank you.
Member for Mosop constituency.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Let me also thank Honorable JK for this motion. I support the motion. I believe that this is the right time actually to consider our young people, the artisans, and also the artists as well, because they do contribute a lot. And looking at the unemployment rate in this country, this is a huge group of people that has been neglected, but they do contribute a lot. So I support that we either just entrench this funding from NGCDF, or like my honorable member also said, that we can consider coming up with an independent exchequer funding. But whatever it is, we should consider them, we should fund them, and so that we can reduce the rate of unemployment, and that will make a difference in this country. So I support the motion. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Anthony Oluoch.
Let me first take this opportunity to thank Honorable KJ. KJ, you've done yourself proud, and the very many elite artists of your generation who have taken the opportunity to see fit that they should uplift the lives and the livelihoods and the talent of young people, knowing very well that coming from the Kenyatta University Cultural Week Forum that brought you up. The only thing that I want to add to this is that as we consider this, let us look at how we can expand the percentage that is allocated to CDF so that we may be able to feed this properly among the very things that are funded by CDF, so that we can uplift the young people and artists in Mathare, in the entire country. I support, and congratulations, Honorable KJ.
For Kirinyaga Central, Honorable Gitari.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I wish to congratulate my brother KJ for bringing this timely motion. I don't start, Madam Speaker. I want to say that KJ is a good example, because there is the tent maker who was called by Jesus, but did not forget the other tent makers. We know KJ was in that industry. Madam Speaker, we want to see Kenya go where we see people doing Nigerian movies. They are being watched. So I'm with KJ all the way to the head. Bwana KJ, I hope that this one will go to become a bill, after which we can effect it properly and engage it and properly put it in the CDF Act, NGCDF Act. Madam Speaker, as I finish, because my minute is going.
Member for Mwea, Honorable Mary Maingi. Okay. The Honorable Member for Mombasa County.
Honorable Speaker, I would like to start by thanking my brother, Honorable KJ, for bringing this motion to the House. By supporting this motion, Honorable Speaker, we shall be unlocking a whole creative economy. If we look at a country like Nigeria, Honorable Speaker, creative economy is the second largest employer in that country. As we were campaigning, we witnessed the very high rate of unemployment in Kenya, and most of the people that are affected by unemployment rates are our youth, Madam Speaker. If
we allocate the 2% the Honorable Speaker is talking about. I'm not even sure it is going to be enough, but it is going to help in unlocking the creative
Member for Mombasa Chamber.
Mheshimiwa Spika, samahani sana. Mimi nimeingia hapa saa 4 kamili, sijatajwa jina. Chombo chako au unamaanisha kweli ni mheshimiwa wa Mombasa ndio anaweza kuzungumza kwa muda huu? Niendelee.
I have two people. I have the first opportunity I gave to the Honorable Member for Mombasa, and the second opportunity, which is the last one, will be going to the Honorable Member for Kwale County. So I would like you flow in that order.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika, na pengine ningependa kusema mjadala huu ambao umeletwa na ndugu yangu Kiare, wanasanaa wengi wamehangaika sana, na katika majumba yetu sisi tuwapenda sana kusifu na kutukuza wanasanaa kutoka mataifa ya nje, lakini wetu wenyewe wanazorota kwa umaskini, na wana muziki mzuri tena mtamu sana, wana uigizaji ambao ni mzuri sana. Kwa hiyo kama Mama Zamzam Mchimba Muhammad, Mama County, ambaye pia ninajua na vijana wangu wa Mombasa ambao wanaigiza, wanaimba, wanafanya sanaa ya kila tofauti, ningependa kwanza kumpongeza ndugu yangu kipenzi Kiare kwa kuleta mjadala huu. Najua kuna wakati ulikuwa mwana sanaa. Kwa hiyo mimi na support, wapewe pesa, waweze kuinuliwa kisanaa, waweze kwenda mbele. Pole Mheshimiwa wa Kwale, zamu ikiwa yangu ni yangu tu, au vipi? Asante sana Madam Speaker, naunga mjadala huu. Asante sana.
Will be the Honorable Member for Kwale County, the Honorable Fatuma Masito.
Asante sana Madam Speaker kwa kuweza kunipatia nafasi hii ya kipekee niweze kuzungumza, nami pia nipatikane katika kumbukumbu za bunge la taifa hili. Kwamba mimi pia ninaunga mkono mswada ambao umeletwa na Mheshimiwa Kiare, Mheshimiwa wa Dagoretti. Na muunga mkono kwa kupitisha, kwa kuweza kuleta hoja hii. Mimi nasema vijana kweli tumewaacha nyuma, na vijana tunawatumia sana tu wakati wa kampeni. Na pia nisisahau wakina mama wa taifa hili. Pale pwani tuna kina mama ambao ni wapishi wazuri sana, na hiyo pia mimi natambua ni sanaa. Wanawake wa pwani, Mheshimiwa Spika, wakikupikia chakula utadhania ni wapishi ambao wana degree au diploma, lakini tu ni kwa sababu ya ufanisi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I think there was some kind of omission there. I want to congratulate Honorable KJ for bringing this motion. This is actually in line of what he's been doing. And I want to congratulate the people of Dagoretti South for electing him, because this is a good show, especially to the artists. The artists that we have in this country, Madam Speaker, is that they play a key role. I remember during our campaigns, most of them actually participated, and they are doing a good job. My suggestion is that they should be funded, and this can be entrenched in the NGCDF or even GAV, so that they can be able to benefit from that, Madam Speaker. Lastly, Madam Speaker, is that these artists, also every county can create a theater where
Member for Mogirango, the Honorable Mogaka.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I thank JK Mheshimiwa for making this earth-moving motion, and I associate with all those who have contributed to support it. On behalf of the people of West Mogrango, I want to add my voice that the aspiration of every country
is economic development. This cannot happen unless the bulk of the youth who have energy, talent, and skill are aligned to national resources. This motion aligns national resources to the talent, and I can see Kenya unlocking a potential for accelerated economic development. I support.
The Honorable Member for Karachonyo, the Honorable Andrew Kwome.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity and also for the opportunity my friend has donated to me to just say one or two things. I support this motion heartily because I realize that our youth are the potential giants lying there with their talents, which, if used properly, this country will automatically change positively for our economic well-being. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
In this list, the Honorable Jackson Koskei.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. First, I begin by supporting KJ for bringing this motion, and I support. I begin by quoting from Patrick Rovus. He said, "There is something deeply satisfying in shaping something with your hands. Proper artificing is like a song made solid. It is an act of creation." Madam Speaker, I support this motion because artisanship creates jobs. It tells of our story as a people and as individuals, and it enhances creativity and innovation. I support this because it will create more an opportunity to preserve our history. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable John Kiari, now you can finalize your reply to the motion.
Madam Speaker, I do appreciate your magnanimity before accepting to give the positions that you could, and because of time, I do understand that even the few minutes I had donated, there is only time left for me to reply. And Madam Speaker, I do beg to reply, and while I was sitting here, I was taking notes upon notes on the bills that members of parliament have built onto this motion. And Madam Speaker, I do take very seriously the contributions of each and every single member who has contributed to this bill. And Madam Speaker, some of the notes that I have been able to take up is that members do appreciate that their hands are tied on supporting innovation as CDF sits today, as WEZO sits today, as NGAF sits today, and even government support from other funds. The MP's hands are tied on innovation support. Madam Speaker, I've also been able to note that we can go beyond paying lip service by funding talent in this country. A question has arisen severally here, Madam Speaker, as to whether the 2% that we are proposing here is sufficient. And I do agree, Madam Speaker, given the opportunity, we can push the bar higher than 2%. Madam Speaker, an interesting point was brought up. On supporting innovation, artists and artisans, we are able to introduce cultural diplomacy that would go a long way in promoting and flying our cultural flag high and internationally. Madam Speaker, the Honorable Nikal brought an important point on righting the wrongs on the academic bias that we have in our syllabus, in our curriculum, and in our education system. Madam Speaker, there is an issue of bringing up ideas and art as collateral that young people can cash on when they are taking financing from banks. Madam Speaker, there is a big drive towards monetizing the platforms that are available, even the online platforms, Madam Speaker, and I did take that as a great contribution, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the issue of patenting and intellectual property, the Honorable Wakili Oluoch will bear me witness that we have gone a long journey on working on the copyright in this country so that we can be able to bring up the issue of ownership of patents by local producers. Madam Speaker, the question is, what are the next steps? Madam Speaker, I do believe that even beyond resolving, because even just by resolving as a house, we take a great step. I do see the need for even bringing up a substantial bill that can become an act. I also see the need of embedding this in the legal proposal that we are making on NGCDF, and I also see as domiciling these proposals also on the acts that administrate and superintend over the NGAF and the WESO Fund. Madam Speaker, there is also the need for finding out how we shall resolve the issue of administration of these funds. Madam Speaker, finally, very interesting soft issues arose. Two of them I will mention because I can't mention all of them. One was the issue of art for peace, that even in conflict areas, art promoted can promote peace in areas where we have seen perpetual conflict in our communities. The other issue that was brought up as a soft issue is the understanding that God is the ultimate creator. And by promoting artists, artisans and innovators, we are promoting co-creators with God. Madam Speaker, I thank you for this opportunity. I thank all the members who have taken time to contribute to this motion, and I do commit to taking it further to see that it is implemented for the good of the entire creative and digital economy in this country. Madam Speaker, I do beg to reply. Thank you very much.
Very well, Honorable John Kiarie. Honorable members, question to be put on this motion will be done in the next sitting. Next order.
Order number 10, motion, development of a unified national policy on small and micro enterprises.
Member 4. The Honorable Beatrice Elachi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I beg to move this motion that, aware that Kenya's economy is largely driven by the informal sector, spearheaded by entrepreneurs presenting themselves in form of small and micro enterprise, concerned that the informal sector, popularly known as the Juakali, has different segments and categories spread out in value chains ranging from agriculture, trade, manufacturing, apparels, IT, transport, the creative economy, education, among others, recognizing that there is need to improve coordination of SMEs through development of an all-inclusive, well-structured delivery platform and encompasses multiple solutions and all key stakeholders, noting that this sector has a potential to create employment opportunities to over 80% of Kenyans' working population, further noting that these SMEs have the capacity to leapfrog our nation to middle income economy as witnessed in other economies around the world, recalling that strong and consistent commitment and political goodwill can deliver the needed growth for the realization of steady and sustainable economic growth, concerned that previous to this sector has merely been a knee-jerk reaction in form of skewed funding and tokenism, cognizant that there exists no unified national policy or legislation in support of the sector, and SMEs across the entire value chain. Now, therefore, this House resolves that the national government develops a unified national policy on small and micro enterprise SMEs, detailing recognition, funding, mentoring, expansion, restructuring, and marketing of the SMEs products. Madam Speaker, when you look at our country today, since 1989, this country has been talking about SMEs. We have seen the growth of SMEs, Madam Speaker. We are talking about approximately 7.4 million SMEs who hold the key to job creation, productivity. The commitment of any government is to ensure you foster growth by ensuring you have key strategies. But the challenge is the dichotomous policy perception of SMEs has contributed also to the ineffective of these policies. And Madam Speaker, there is need to support the different recommendations that we've had proposed by different organizations that support SMEs. It's important to have a coherent, effective, and efficient national policy that will foster contribution to sustainable development and growth. Madam Speaker, as we speak today, the aftermath of COVID-19 and the crisis that hit this country, and then having a government that decided at one point, Madam Speaker, that SMEs across the country just went through what they have never gone through. That, Madam Speaker, it reached a point where we decided this institution will decide the SMEs have brought in substandard goods, and therefore the goods are going to be held by customs, and therefore at any given point, everyone tried to look for their goods, Madam Speaker. In the end, we decided it has to be banned. It was very devastating from many SMEs in this country. And this was happening just because we don't have a national policy that is coherent to different sectors, that is able to bring and ensure there's a conducive environment for an SME to do their jobs or to ensure their businesses are running. Yet we know very well each business, Madam Speaker, and I'll give an example today. In Kikomba Market, Madam Speaker, that takes care of millions of Kenyans, we have a business chain that starts with the person who brings in the mutumba. The person who has imported in the mutumba will come, and there's a person who will come and open the bale. We will have young people who will now be able to sort out. We will have those who will buy and say, this is for camera. We will have those who now will say, will be ironing. All of them are making, you've created jobs for different cadre. That there's a person who just irons. There's another one who just buys what is called camera. There's the one who comes and picks what is remaining. There's a commission that you give for everyone you see within the street selling one or two things. And therefore, Madam Speaker, when you come and close that business, suddenly, then you leave millions wondering, where are they going to get their bread? And so when we speak of a government that we want to see, and I want to thank, I know we now have a CS who will be in charge of SMEs. We also have our CS who we really look up to, the Ministry of Trade, and the minister who will be also in SMEs and cooperatives, and we also have the Minister of Trade. Those two ministers, or those two CSs, are going to ensure that you facilitate a supporting system that adapts a digital way of how things can be done. And so you open up even in markets and have a digital technology that even traders can use, small SMEs can use. Today I see in the streets of Nairobi, we have everyone. But if it was structured well, then you will find people will continue with their businesses, those who have big shops. The SMEs who are within the streets can also sell, but in the same time, you have a chain that appreciates everyone must use that space. Madam Speaker, if we have functional markets, then the digital goods and services can do very well in this country. And therefore, as I bring in this motion, I bring in this motion at a time I remember in the 12th Parliament, we really talked about how SMEs were being mistreated. That today, and I want to thank the President, that indeed, today, those SMEs will be able to go back and start trade, we will be able to bring a container where they are sharing cost and they are able to clear their goods from Mombasa, than the way it had reached a point, my goods are picked from Mombasa and are delivered in Naivasha, and then I will leave Naivasha and again come and pay in Nairobi for it to arrive. Honestly, I mean, we are a very interesting country. We are an interesting country where you find someone making millions, billions at the port. So we have others, small, who have decided, Madam Speaker, at Mombasa, so the container, the wagon comes in with $560, and then this wagon is carrying 4 containers. It will be taken to somebody's yard where I'm supposed to receive it, and I'm supposed to pay per day $400. And I want to tell you, Madam Speaker, if this government is not going to change all this that we saw, I think we will be doing an big injustice to our SMEs who right now are looking for resources, and I'm hoping the Hustler Fund and any other fund, the Economic Stimulus Fund, can come out for these traders to use this money to revive business, revive opportunities of jobs, bring back our young people to start trading, and also within the creative jobs that they had done. Madam Speaker, a good government must enhance participation in international and global trade by providing a conducive environment and regulatory framework that enables everyone, be it if I am selling a plastic container, should be with standards, yes, but then I'm able to trade. Be it if I'm trading my tomatoes, be it if I'm trading my avocados, be it if I'm trading my fruits, my pixies, which are doing very well right now in Makueni. Madam Speaker, if there's anything that we can do to revive our economy, is to build the SMEs that we have. If there's anything we have to see for us to pay our debt, is to create a conducive environment for SMEs so that they can flourish. If there's anything we can do to sit down and listen to the stories and testimonies of how, for us, we started small trades during Kibaki's time. And I will tell you, Madam Speaker, during Kibaki's time, many of these traders you've seen go down. That is the time they started their trade. They came into an administration that felt so angered. And I'm sorry to say this, because I was part of this administration of Jubilee. But there's nothing as painful when you get into jealousness of business, where the big shots will feel threatened with small SMEs who are coming up. There's nothing sad as that. And that is why we went into conflict of trade and we killed completely what Kibaki had revived in this country. It was very sad to see our businessman Humphrey being treated the way he was treated just because of competition of business. And we killed each other with our own KRA, and I'm hoping when I'm talking of our national policy and a conducive environment, I am speaking also to KRA that you must create a conducive environment for you to also receive revenue. That if you indeed give every person in Kenya an opportunity, today, Madam Speaker, we spend $5 billion a day as a country. That is what we spend. But then we end up in a deficit of $3 billion. So in a day, Kenya spends $8 billion. It means we can be able to revive businesses. You will collect beyond $9 billion and be able to ensure that every person is able to have a living, not just in Nairobi, but in every place in this country. Madam Speaker, if we enable SMEs by reducing barriers to entry and exit, we support competition and provide incentives and innovation, then I tell you, we shall be able to move this country to the next level. As I conclude, Madam Speaker, it is important to facilitate access to resource where needed and conducive, decent work for self-employed. When we look at our markets, when we look at even where the small traders are, it is important to have a conducive environment. With those few remarks, Madam Speaker, I want to invite the Honorable Amos Mwago from Starehe constituency, where all SMEs do business, to second this motion.
Honorable members, thank you very much, Honorable Member for Dagoretti. Honorable members, before seconding of this motion by the Honorable Mwago, I would like to allow the Honorable Nelson Koech to table a report on the Committee on Defense. So, Honorable Koech.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following paper on the table of the House today, Wednesday, November 9th, 2022, the afternoon sitting. The report on the Departmental Committee on Defense, Intelligence and Foreign Relations on its consideration of the request by the National Executive regarding deployment of the Kenya Defense Forces to the East African Community Regional Force, Democratic Republic of Congo.
The Honorable Nelson Koech, now you may give the notice of motion for the report that you just tabled.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to give notice of the following motion that, taking into consideration the recommendations of the Departmental Committee on Defense, Intelligence and Foreign Relations, in its report on the request by the National Executive regarding the deployment of the Kenya Defense Forces to the East African Community Regional Force to the Democratic Republic of Congo, laid on the table of the House today, Wednesday, 9th November 2022, and pursuant to the provisions of Article 240, Subarticle 8, Subarticle A of the Constitution, and Section 18C and Section 32(2)A of the Kenya Defense Forces Act 2012 in this House, approves the deployment of Kenya Defense Forces to the East Africa Community Regional Force to the Democratic Republic of Congo for peacekeeping operations.
Honorable members, we may now go back to the motion as moved by the member for Dagoretti. Honorable Mwago, you may now second the motion.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I want to take this opportunity to congratulate my able mentor, Honorable Beatrice Elachi, for bringing this motion on the floor of the House, seeking for the development of a unified national policy on small and micro enterprises. Madam Speaker, I come from a constituency that heavily relies on trade as its fundamental economic activity, and most of my constituents are traders that fall under this category of small and micro enterprises. I stand here to second this motion because it directly affects my constituents, because most of the marketing place in Starehe is dominated by traders in this status of the economy of people. During the campaign periods, both sides of the divide campaigned on a platform of economic revolution, with the Kenya Kwanza government advocating for the bottom-up approach, and us on our side, the Azimio side, we're advocating for that economic liberation of our nation. So I'm very pleased that we have had two motions today that center on empowerment of our people in matters trade. That's a step in the right direction, and I think it is time overdue. We recognize the role that is played by SMEs in the economics of this country. And it is only wise that we are able to recognize these SMEs, give them a conducive environment, empower them, because they are a powerhouse when it comes to the employment opportunities of our people. Down where I come from, I've risen up from being a trader in the downtown side of Nyamakima, Kamkunji area. And the SMEs in those areas, people have come from the villages and set up very serious SMEs, which have blossomed and grown to be medium enterprises, and others have gone even into the industrialization phase through the support they got from the Kibaki government. And it's so demoralizing that we are killing that spirit, where the Kibaki administration opened up the economy of Kenya by giving these SMEs chances and opening other countries and other markets that we saw the goods from. For example, China, trading with China, Dubai, Turkey, and other countries. And it has taken our people some amount of money to invest in this trade that have really revolutionized the business ideas around Starehe and around Nairobi. The trading chains in Nairobi have benefited so much by the trading policies that were put under the Kibaki administration. So when my sister seeks to bring a development of a unified national policy on small and micro enterprises, I support it from the bottom of my heart, because if we were to bolster the economy of this country, I think we'd have to start with empowering the SMEs, because through the innovation and creations, they've been able to be a powerhouse in offering jobs and being employers in this country. If you look at the development countries, the developed countries of the world, they have really relied on the private sector to empower the economy. They have empowered the private sector. If you look at countries like India, where they started with cottage industries, moved to handicraft industries, and have been able to arrive at the industrial level, industrial revolution level, through empowering the small traders and the small SMEs in their country. So it is time overdue, Madam Speaker, that we seek to empower these SMEs through recognition, so that we can reduce the harassment meted on these SMEs. You can imagine at their very infant stages, there are really so many agencies directed to oversee the activities of these SMEs, but they don't do it in the correct way. They do it in a harassive way, whereby a trader will be told his goods are contraband, others are counterfeit, but they are not actually civilized, given civic education to understand what is contraband and what is counterfeit. So I think it's a step in the right direction. I want to congratulate my sister, and I stand to second this motion. Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Honorable members, I now propose that, aware that Kenya's economy is largely driven by informal sector, spearheaded by entrepreneurs presenting themselves in form of small and micro enterprises, SMEs, concerned that the informal sector, popularly known as Juakali, has different segments and categories spread out in value chain ranging from agriculture, trade, manufacturing, apparels, IT, transport, the creative economy, education, among others. Recognizing that there is need to improve coordination of SMEs through development of an all-inclusive, well-structured delivery platform that encompasses multiple solutions and all key stakeholders, noting that this sector has a potential to create employment opportunities to over 80% of Kenya's working population. Further noting that these SMEs have the capacity to leapfrog our nation to a middle-income economy, as witnessed in other economies around the world. Recalling that strong and consistent commitments and political goodwill can deliver the needed growth for the realization of steady and sustainable economic growth. Concerned that previous support by government to this sector has merely been a knee-jerk reaction in form of skewed funding and tokenism. Cognizant that there exists no unified national policy or legislation in supporting of the sector and SMEs across the entire value chain. Now, therefore, this House resolves that the national government develops a unified national policy on small and micro enterprises, SMEs, detailing, recognizing funding, mentoring, expansion, reconstructing, and marketing of all SME products. Honorable members, debate on this motion will resume in the next sitting. Honorable members, time now being 1 p.m. This House stands adjourned until today, Wednesday, the 9th of November 2022 at 2:30 p.m.
Good afternoon. Welcome to this live broadcast of the Senate, the afternoon sitting on this day of the 8th of November, the year 2022. This live broadcast is brought to you by the Parliamentary Broadcasting Unit in partnership with the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation. On the order of business for the members of the Senate this afternoon, nominated Senator Kenyuri Esther Anyeni will be sworn in this office in the administration of oath. The nominated Senator Kenyuri Esther Anyeni will be sworn in this afternoon. Also lined up for consideration are 2 bills and 2 motions. 2 bills will be read for the first time. There is a bill by the Senator Honorable Moses Kajwang on the County Vocational and Training Bill. This is Senate Bill number 3 of 2022. It is a bill that is originating from the Senate. This particular bill will be read for the first time on the floor of the Senate this afternoon. There is also the County Government's Additional Allocation number 2 bill originating from the Senate, Bill number 4 of 2022. This is by the Chairperson Standing Committee on Finance and Budget. Well, at the entrance of the Senate chambers, the Speaker of the Senate, Speaker Honorable Amason Kingi, beg your pardon, Amason Kingi has stepped into the chambers. I will now hand you over for this live broadcast brought to you by PBU in partnership with KBC. Good afternoon.
To our church. Asante.